not really eloquent in Swahili. So today I'm your host. I'll be representing Luanga Communication Center, Catholic Diocese of Mombasa. I am Kanini Mulinge, a lawyer by profession and also the host of the day. And with me is a discussion about youth minds, great impact. Youth in advocacy, governance. We're gonna talk about morality and ethics. We'll talk about politics. We'll talk about governance, advocacy, and modesty. And with me is a panel of great minds led by our Archbishop Martin Kivuva Musinde, and we have also an advocate of the High Court of Kenya, Lawrence Obonyo. We have our youth leader, Aileen Jeb Kurui, and also a lawyer from Hakietu, and who is Marius Kioko. And so as an opening address, you're going to hear from the Archbishop. Welcome.
So my name is Archbishop Martin Kivuva Musonde. As you've been told, I'm the Archbishop of Mombasa. I've been here since 2015. February, I was installed as the Archbishop of Mombasa. And I must say, I'm privileged to be here for the last close to now to 9 years. Good evening, all of you.
Good evening.
We are here to join the rest of Kenyans, wherever they are. For the last 2 weeks, I've been in different parishes, hearing and speaking about what is happening around us. Like those friends of Emmaus who are walking, don't ask what is happening. We are not strangers to Kenya. We're aware in the last 3 or so weeks, there was a bill, finance bill, and from this discussion of rejecting the bill, it rose up to a point when His Excellency the President called different people to ask what to do. While we know it was approved for or passed for signing, His Excellency the President did not sign it. However, that was the beginning, or rather a point where we can mark and say, this is where it all started raining on us. A lot of things have happened so far. Yes, this weekend we had young people in Uhuru Park. We had other dioceses coming, bringing their young people together. The Basilica was one such a place. And I spoke to the Archbishop of Nairobi, and he told me the Basilica was full of young people who are asking the same questions. While I was in Kwale, I did on the 23rd of this month, of this last month, I happened to be there, and that is the time when things were beginning to roll, and I could see there is something we need to listen to the young people about. The whole story of Kenya's history and the whole story of our political class, our political politics of Kenya since we got our uhuru. And we needed to go even farther than that and project where we want to be. And I'm aware many of the things that have come up. As a result, His Excellency the President invited us to his place. And I will tell you later why we went. 8 of us, the bishops of Kenya, the archbishops, and a few other, and 2 other bishops, we were invited to State House. And he told us what I'll tell you a little later. That will be a little later at my time. But I want to welcome you to be settled down. You come from Mombasa, and I'm aware others are watching on Capuchin TV. Thank you, Capuchin TV, for televising this. We thought to bring it on air because we have already, for many years now, several years since Corona, running, let's say, masses on air, conversations on air, and teaching on air, and now even many of you are going to school online. So instead of calling all the priests and all the lay and the young people of our archdiocese, we thought to call a few of you. You represent quite many, about 6 of you are here. And we want you to be free to talk with us, share with us. The church is concerned. That's why we invited our youth chaplain, who is here with us. And he can wave to know he's your youth chaplain in the archdiocese. Fathers Arori at the back, and Father Gregory from Mikindani. So that's all we are here, to chat with you for about an hour. Be free to say what you want to say. We didn't invite the police, they're not here, and even anyway, if they were here, they'd be taking care of us. We want to join the others and say, for sure, it's a moment in our history. We want to make our contribution. We know the history of Kenya very well, simply how it all started with the Mau Mau and other things came up. The other day we were celebrating Sabasaba Sunday yesterday, and now we are here where we are talking about the Gen Z exercise that we have taken up and has come up as a very interesting beginning. Everybody I've spoken to has said, these young people, tuwasikilize. That's something we need to hear from them. By the way, we want to congratulate you. You do it in style, peacefully, as we have always done as members of this community. And we want to say many communities that are here, the Muslims, Mombasa is full, we are a kaleidoscope of different nations. There we have Muslims, we have Hindus, we have Wazee Wakaya, and we work and live together in harmony. Of course, occasionally we are charged by other factors that make us perhaps fight or hate each other. But at the moment, we have had very good working together in the parishes, in the churches, in the Muslim, our partnership with others, with the CSOs, and that's why we are here representing different teams together. So mine is to welcome you to this hall, and thank you for coming and turning on time. Thank you. Once again, I return the microphone to our moderator.
Thank you so much. We all now turn to Marius Kioko. I hope I'm pronouncing your name well. He's a human rights lawyer. Just a little of opening address to the public.
As you've heard before, I'm Marius Kioko, a human rights lawyer working with the Haki Yetu organization. We work in the 6 counties of Mombasa. To my siblings, the Gen Zs, to the millennials, I will say that we started well. We were on the right course, but it's time that now we guide one another. Maybe through the church and through other many avenues, so that we can see how the conversation can go on well, without damages, and in accordance to our constitution. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We now turn to Lawrence Obonyo, an advocate of the High Court of Kenya.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Am I audible enough?
Yes.
Okay. My name is Lawrence Obonyo, as you have been told by our moderator. I'm an advocate practicing from Mombasa, an advocate of the High Court of Kenya. I've been in practice for a while now. well over 8 years, and I've been a lawyer for more than 10 years. So I am glad to join this very eminent panel here to actually discuss this pertinent issue that is before us today. It was here with us yesterday. This conversation could not have come any sooner. The way Bishop has said, the voices are out there, and this would be now the turning point of our democracy as we look at it. So handled well, we shall forge a different path for this country, but mishandled will take a very drastic and wrong turn for this country. So it's very good that we can all be here and we become ambassadors of the good news and the best way of actually exercising our democracy and ensuring that we actually get the fruits that we are fighting for. The way Bishop has given us a brief history, this started a while back. By a while back, we talk of the 80s and we talk of since when independence was gotten in this country. But now that we are at this particular point, we still have a long way to go, and this way has to be chart. You have to chart this way properly for the future. Mr. Kioko has said that it started well, and now we have to observe certain things. That is why we are engaging. The reason why, even with this broadcast, the reason why it is important and it's imperative for each person to participate in this is so that we can have the best form of communication, which is word of mouth. If it goes to every other person, then we jointly participate in the best way forward. So thank you so much. I'm looking forward to an engaging discussion.
Thank you so much. We now turn to our young lady in the panel, the youth leader, Aileen Jepkurui.
So good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
My name is Aileen Jepkurui. I'm a liturgist at Miritini Parish. And apart from that, I'm also a law student at the University of Nairobi. I'm in my 3rd year. And I'm here to actually be a voice of the youth. I'm also a Gen Z. And this is not only a fight for the Gen Z. Right now, it has become a cause for us all because it's affecting us. And from the famous word of Pauline Care, for those who read Kigogo, siku moja vijana wataunganika na watapigania haki zao. We've been able, I'm so proud of my generation. We've been able to see this pan out. And right now, maybe we should actually maybe change the perspective because of the infiltrations. So I'm very excited to engage with the panel and all of you and actually air out the issues. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So let's start from here, right? A brief history of, we're looking at the recent activities that has just happened or is happening in the country. Hashtag Occupy Parliament by the Gen Z. And apparently this is not a new thing. We have witnessed the same protest and the same riot in December 1991, whereby the Section 21A of the Constitution was repealed. We have also seen the same peaceful protest by the youths, the Gen Z in Egypt, where we can see on the January 26th of 2011, we see the overthrow of President Hosni Mubarak because of his emergency laws and dictatorship for almost 30 years. And we go to our nearby country, Khartoum, Sudan, and we are seeing how the overthrow of the President Omar al-Bashir in the same context of the high price and the cost of living. And it was actually triggered by the tripling of the price of bread. So as a Gen Z lawyer, my question to you will be, so what lessons do we learn from this protest? Is it to achieve something and entirely not achieving it at all? Is the rejection of the finance bill in its entirety something that will settle the score between the state and its citizens, and particularly the score that is between the state and the Gen Zs?
So rejecting the bill, that was just a start, because that was supposed to be done way before. We shouldn't have gotten to this place. We shouldn't have arrived to the point where people have to die for the politicians or the leaders per se to listen. democracy is a government for the people, by the people. So let's say, for example, the MPs, they should have listened to the sounds of the ground, but maybe they didn't take the Gen Z seriously initially. From words of our leaders, they just saw us as kids who they don't know what they're doing. We shouldn't have gotten to this point. The rejection of the bill in its entirety, it was just a beginning, and we should have never gotten to that point. And this is also a learning point, because the bill was just something, let's call it a trigger. They had been piling up issues, and it built anger. The bill, I feel like it was a trigger, because now the reality hit us, and we're like, okay, these people, they don't listen, and which pushed people to the last resort, which is the protest. And coming from such a generation, it should be taken with such seriousness, because maybe it could have been done better. It could have been done better. They should have been listening from the leaders, which now makes this generation question the whole idea of what's the essence of them if we elected them to represent us, and they get there, they forget the people they're supposed to represent. Then maybe the best result could have been to occupy the place they make the laws, which is Occupy Parliament.
We have seen Gen Zs using a new platform, actually. We are moving from throwing stones and carrying twigs in the streets and actually mobilizing a protest using our digital platforms. So do you think, just a follow-up question, do you think Gen Z are going to run away from the political parties, are going to run away from tribal elections and actually elect leaders authentically?
Let me first give a background. The previous election, maybe most of the Gen Zs didn't qualify for the election. Two, maybe we had this notion, me being one of them, I won't separate myself among the people of like, I don't do politics. Politics is not my cup of tea, it's not giving. But now we've seen the repercussions, we've seen it. And in regards to tribal or political parties, this group, I'm sure right now, after the finance bill and after this whole process or this whole 2 weeks, I'm sure this lot, being majority of the voters, they're going to take their voters card and we're going to make a change. We're dealing with a generation which majority or most actually can't speak their mother tongue. We're in the group of I can hear but I can't talk. So the tribal notion, we are breaking it, and I can say, per se, we are breaking generational curses. We're trying to choose leaders with regards to accountability, performance, and actually right now, something so important, listening to the people, the voice of the people. I feel like this is the change that the generations before us and the generations after us have been waiting for. This has just been a wake-up call.
Thank you so much. To Lawrence Sobonyo, my senior, I think I should be calling you sir. Yes, Article 37 of the Constitution states, and I quote verbatim, we have the right to peaceful and unarmed protest, we have the right to picket, we have the right to present petitions to public authorities. So my question is, how can the legal system help stand up for justice with the imperative to maintaining peaceful public protest?
Thank you so much for the question. First of all, let me just say I'm super impressed sometimes when I've had my colleague Miss Eileen talk about it's not giving. I didn't understand what that means until the protest recently. So I'm learning a new language. I know, Bishop, you may not get that when they say it's not giving. Anyway, to the moderator, the question that you've asked is a very imperative question, and I thank you for that. Article 37 of the Constitution indeed gives the parameters of the rights that have been given. We do not have a shortage of the laws in this country. There are more than enough laws. The issue that we may have is how they can be enforced, taking the law from the black and white into implementing them into day-to-day lives. So if the question is how can the laws be there so that we can take advantage of them, the answer is simple. It is participation, it is knowledge, and it is civic education. You've seen how much the wave has come from this, the trigger that was now the finance bill. to the more need for people to understand what is going on. I've been in the social media platforms and I've been seeing that people are getting more and more keen to the other acts that are there. People are getting to the resources where you get the acts and the laws, and then people are getting to get a better understanding. So if it's maybe understanding Article 37 of the Constitution, it actually says not peaceful, but peaceable protest. You have that right to peaceable. What does that mean? That means that it ought not to include, but bring about or result in any form of violence. So looking at that particular piece of law in its exclusion, you would see that actually we have not had good protests. This may be unpopular, but we've not had good protests because in one way or the other, there has been an aspect of violence, an aspect of loss of property, an aspect of looting. Whoever is to blame, it means that the process was not peaceable. So if we are to actually bracket it and say that within this period to this period, it was clean and everything, then we would have complied with Article 37 of the Constitution. So indeed, the laws are there. The best way of achieving or getting the fruits of the provisions of the law that are there, because the Constitution is just the foundation, but there are other acts that guide how and when and what constitutes a peaceable protest. So we should say that the young people should actually take an active role in the process, utilize the provisions of the law that are there, but make sure that we don't abuse them. I don't know if I've addressed the question. Maybe you can guide me.
You've actually addressed the question. So my follow-up question from your question will go to our dearest human rights lawyer, Maurice Kioko. And we saw the beginning of protest. It started with a peaceful protest, peaceable and unarmed protest. And we saw the hashtag, how can you tear gas a body? Hashtag, it's not given. Hashtag, ew, what's that? So we're moving from that perspective of, we are coming actually into the perspective of the new generation of protest. So as a human rights lawyer, my question is, what advice will you give to Gen Z protesters, whereby as much as they're protesting for their rights, as much as they're protesting for the rejection of the finance bill, which was actually withdrawn if the president has such powers, what's your advice in, you can still protest, but also remain, your action should actually remain within the advocating for social change?
Somewhere. Allow me first to echo the words of my senior, Lawrence. He said that we have enough laws governing everything in Kenya. And allow me to extend this advice not only to the Gen Z or the youths, but also to the security apparatus and the government. Number one, rule of law. Number two, rule of law. Number three, rule of law. If everyone abides with our laws, if the youths abide with the laws, like during the first day and the second day of these protests, the youth were very calm. If the security apparatus on their side abides with the law, I don't think whether we will have a problem. And to be sincere, and we have to echo our voices through whatever platforms. The main problem in our country is our leadership, because they've gotten to this point that they think they are above the law. We've seen the few people who went to parliament buildings, the ones who were captured by CCTV maybe. Some of them are behind bars today. But we've seen people like police shooting at a very close range. We have these faces, but these guys are just walking, roaming around freely. By now, our NIS are aware of the people who are sponsoring violence during the protests, but we don't see anything being done. So I come back now to fellow youths. We should not tire telling them the truth. We might think that it falls on deaf ears, but allow me to say that hata kichwa ngumu anafikanga mahali anasikiza. We saw the pride our politicians were talking, the way they were addressing us last year when we were fighting the infamous finance bill of 2023. There's a politician who came out and told us that itapita bila amendment ya comma or even a full stop. But right now they are listening. Today, we had 8 forums within the country. We were doing public participation on the proposed increase of fuel levy. We are very few people because even the government is playing tricks on us, but by the end of the day, we've seen the minister, the CS coming out and saying we have to listen to Kenyans. So my advice remains rule of law. In whatever manner we picket, in whatever manner we demonstrate, in whatever manner we make the noise, I'm sure, and the good thing with the youths is that we are learned. Thank you.
Thank you. To our Archbishop, there is an Angola proverb that says, what a child says, they've probably had it from home. So let's begin it with a little touch. What's your interpretation of that proverb?
My interpretation of that, I say this: monkey see, monkey do. Nyani akiona ukifanya hivi, naye anafanya vivyo vivyo.
That's nice. Monkey see, monkey do. So let's go to Friday, the 20th
and I
of
want
June.
to add something on our lawyer's story about what you did. And I think it's good to reflect it. I'm sure all of us know what we call active non-violence. And I also know all of you have done maandamano. Palm Sunday, you Catholics, start from one end, carry matawi, to the other end, you ended in a church, you go and stop. Good Friday, you have the same. And I've never seen anyone throw stones. I mean, I'm just saying that is an active non-violence. You're telling the story of Jesus' death, or you're telling the story of Jesus' crucifixion without hitting anyone. And usually it's so solemn and so active that people shed tears. I always say it is possible, but you also know those who don't want you to do it will influence others, will buy others to infiltrate you. We can be our own, and this is what we need to reflect when you are doing certain things. So just to say, that's a good example where we are. About the statement you just mentioned from, did you say it's from which country? Angola. It's an African saying, because what you're calling mother tongue, you cannot learn it anywhere else except home. Many a time. We call it mother tongue because unashinda na mama. I have a little nephew who jumps out and he's speaking the language everybody is speaking there. If you move him to another site where they're speaking another language, that is it. So our history, we've learned siasa ambazo zingine hazifai, zimepitwa na wakati. I was, and many of the young people here were observers in the last election. And I observed until midnight. Sisters were observers. Priests were observers. Lay people were observers. So we also have to protect what we value. So if you keep away, then you know what will happen. If people are dividing food in a corner and you're not there, you know what will happen. Some will do exactly what some students in school. You give them 5 bananas, there are 3 of them, to share with the other 3, they put 2 in the pocket first. And then as they walk, they say, let's share the rest. So I'm aware the values we teach people of honesty, of truthfulness, they must be imbued in our systems. If they are not there, you can forget it.
Thank you. I think we have grown up, or rather most of us, in a typical African home. Our parents coming home and saying, complaining about the high cost of living, complaining about how the government is running this and this badly. However, it's a new time that Gen Zs have actually taken to the streets and acted upon the constraints that the government is impacting in them. So in the matter of making or touching the state and the church, on Friday, the 28th of June, 2024, President William Ruto called a meeting of the Kenyan Catholic bishops to come up with a solution of solving such problems that are happening in the country. And I quote verbatim what he said on Twitter: "We welcome the commitment by the Catholic Church to participate in multi-sectoral engagement that seeks solutions to the issues facing our country. Through this collective approach, we will move Kenya forward." So my question to you, in line with President William Ruto's emphasis and a research that was carried out by the University of Nairobi 3 years ago, whereby the people who are to be trusted in a country are the armed soldiers and the clergy. So as the church and as the person representing the Catholic Church, how do you view the involvement of the Catholic Church in the multi-sectoral engagements that was alluded by the President?
First of all, let me just say, the church, when you say church, is quite a huge one.
Mm-hmm.
But what we are calling the Catholic bishops, the Catholic Church, were invited.
Mm-hmm.
The President had invited earlier, I think, the Protestant body. So when he called us, the Friday of that date, we felt it's like your neighbor has an issue, and we could see it. We knew it's going to come up. Somebody calls out to your neighbor, say, "Hey, gentlemen, come, I'm in trouble." So we were pulled by his call. We arrived, the 8 of us, and he spoke and said, "Look, I have this." He has had to consult different groups to say, what can he do? Surely, I know when I saw the tweet from the Gen Z, they said, it was a very interesting one, a short one, a very quick one. I still have it. "Catholic bishops, we respect you, but the picture below, the picture below is our enemy number 1. And yes, we looked at it, and I knew where you're coming from. And somebody else, a senior member of the community here, has said, they should not be moving, you should be waiting, you are big people, you're important persons. We are servants, and that's why even you call me, I'll come. How many times do I carry my just diary, and I use, whenever I meet a young person, anybody, and he wants to listen to me, I just do it on the spot. And I don't find it's against the grain. After all, when Jesus, after washing Peter was refusing to be washed his feet, he told him, "Look, have you understood what I've done? Go and do the same. Be a servant leader." So we called by young people like you have called us, we come. Wazee, we go. Wakongwe, we go. The sick, we go. So understand what the church and the pastors, let me call them the priests or the religious men and women, are all about. It is all about a prestige. So I'm just sidetracking to just help you understand where we come from. So when he asked us, what do you advise? Surely he got plenty of advice. He got plenty of advice. First of all, we told him, Mr. President, Your Excellency, sir, you cannot do it alone. We cannot do it alone either. None of us in Kenya can do it alone. After all the changes that have come, we are proud of. We were always a part of the change constitution. We were there. You had Mdingis that time. We had Muges that time. We this time have a different style. We are using different methods. But it is all of us together, my dear brothers and sisters, wherever you are. And what we are asking, it's our right that we share the cake that our ancestors baked for us, for the young, for the old, the sick. And that's how you heard us speak in many occasions about many things. For example, about health issues, NHIF. You've heard us speak about the whole issue of education and how expensive it has become. You've heard us speak about the whole issue of this housing. How are you going to organize them? We have spoken that many times. But is it coming now? We don't know. But we know the voices of the bishops have been always there. The voice of the churches, the Muslims, the Hindus. We were there even during the announcement of the elections, 2022, Bomas. I was there at that particular evening. And we were there with the others. So we have Kenya at heart. We have our leadership at heart. And this is where we say our leaders, they seem to change even their color immediately after election. May they be this, that, and the other. That's why it is important to carry out civic education. And what is civic education? It's educating us exactly what you are trying to do now to the masses and to the public through the mtandao. And I want to say congratulations. We have pushed to try to give civic education through Justice and Peace, through the forums we have had, DRG, other forums, but the politician is afraid of that. I was afraid of telling the people the truth. I'll tell you what I did during the elections, the kind of organization we did. We invited them in a hall, big hall, like bigger than this, in a place called our Pastor Center, the ones in Mombasa. And we invited everyone who thought he has something to ask Kenyans to do, or the Mombasas to do. In that way, they told us what they want, what position they want, how they're going to get the money, and how they are going to distribute the money. Some of them got it right, some others didn't. So it is an engagement of not just during election. It must be ongoing, ongoing. As you said, monkey see, monkey do. If we don't teach them now, when they jump, all they see is people going to Dubai and back, going to London and back. And unfortunately, it's tempting, especially for people who are hungry, don't have food. They see you biting a big bread. They saliva and they want it. They want it or they demand it. So, without saying much, because this is your forum, mkituita kama wazee tutaongea na wazee. But I really want to say what you're doing is going to educate all of us, all of us, all of us.
As we do appreciate the civic education that is run by our priests, our archbishops, and the Kenya Catholic bishops, just to bring you on track, right? And I think this is a question that each and everyone in this room has in mind. We do concede, we do not refute that we should indeed share the cake that our ancestors baked for all of us. We should use that platform in civic education in all matters and sundry. However, just to bring you on track, considering the current precedent set in churches, the political climate set whereby the churches, particularly as we see recently the Catholic Church hosting political campaigns, also engaging harambes that are run by politicians. So my question to you, how can the church maintain its spiritual integrity while remaining in such collaborations?
I think from where I sit, I was the chair of the Conference of Catholic Bishops. And I only relinquished my chair in April. I personally, and all of us, were not pro-politicians doing the harambe within us. That is out of contest. And of course, the temptation is there. I've seen it. You remember, at one time, the politicians were going to certain places. And others began to say, Ata sisi tuko, we are already here. Why are you going to one place only? You see, it's like if you give a banana to a hungry kid, and you are the family, you have others. Others say, why are you forgetting us? So they even pushed people, invite politicians to the altars, which is not correct. Our Catholic ask them here. When we have our statements, we do them outside the church.
So are you alluding that the Catholic Church is actually considering to ban politics from happening in the pulpit?
We did ban it. So those who are doing it were doing out of their own volition. It's like in a family. You have your mother or your father, your daddy says, tomorrow you eat bananas. And one kid says, oh, shauri yako, it's me who is eating, it's me who know what I like, you know. So there's a law even within us, in the church. Let, as I say, give to Caesar what is Caesar's, and give to God what is God. When we have what we call our liturgies, the Catholics especially, we do not want interference. It doesn't mean I cannot invite a politician outside Mass and we come and work at a project. We can do that. And because they are also Catholics or Protestants, they are members of their church, they have a right to contribute their 10%. And their 10% of what they get is not the 10% you get. So it is their responsibility. I remember when I was in a certain diocese, and that year we were talking about, our theme was, faith without action is dead. So I called them and said, "Uni mwaka wa watu kuonyesha imani yao, what can we do?" And they thought among themselves, they said, "We'll buy a bus for the diocese, for everyone, anyone who wants to use it." And they organized themselves and they bought one bus, all the politicians in that particular place. And they gave it to the diocese. It's a good gesture. After all, everything we get from the missionaries is also donated by people from other countries. So we have a right, they have a right to donate what they can, but they do not have a right to come and try to campaign. In fact, I invited them to a campaign to tell people what they want, but I bought all the sodas, I gave all the lunch, and we finished and I went. And I said, thank you. I didn't ask them to pay. Because I need to lead also from the front, that it is possible to invite you and give you soda and I don't have to charge you. So if it's harambe or unaita fungu la kumi, unaita sadaka, unaita what, let's do it in a better way. Some of them, not all of them. Some of them anatoa 10,000. He calls the media, angalieni moja. So come on. I mean, let's be, because you're there giving lots of money, and remember there are people, hata mtu hajakula lunch, hajakula supper, he has no place to sleep. It's sensitive to the people we lead. In fact, I would ask for austere methods of doing it if we were to do it. But anyways, today we are just reflecting on what has happened. It is a learning lesson, and I think we can change. We can change, even all of us. Don't think the politicians are the only ones who have money. Even kuna vijana wana hela.
Yeah.
Sana.
We also have our fungu la kumi, even though it won't be the 10% our MPs donate in church, but your point is clear, and I would like to turn off the heat from you kidogo. Let's get back to our audience. I mean, if you have any questions that you could direct to the Archbishop and the lawyers present and the youth leader, this is your time. Any question? If somebody could pass the mic.
I'm Collins Wandera Ongudi, I do political science public administration in Rongo University. I have a question. One of us who I think was one of the lawyers on this hand, the gentleman. You've talked of peaceable demonstration. I was very keen on the first day of demonstration. While this demonstration was beginning, it was peaceful. During that demonstration, people were tear gassed, people were killed. The last demonstration that is said to be full of looting and what have you, goons were there. These goons, people were not, by this last demonstration, people were not killed, people were not tear gassed, but people were looting. Between the first one and the last one, where is the law applying? My concern, before I sit down, is some solutions to this country. The problem was not finance bill. The problem was unemployment. The problem is tribalism. The problem is weak systems. The problem is poor organization culture that we have as Kenya. So to me, while the demonstration was beginning, as a political scientist, I was on my radio listening to demonstration, people saying occupy parliament, occupy parliament. I told my church, this is not a finance bill. This is tribalism. This is unemployment. To our president, as I finish, the solutions are, first, let him fulfill the promises that he promised us while he was campaigning. Second point, let him build industry so that we can have employment in Kenya. Those are the solutions. Very simple solutions that...
If I can cut you short.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. The next questions, kindly limit yourself to just questions because of time constraints. So we can have the gentleman at the back.
Okay, thank you. My name is Diana Ndegwa. My question is, now that the president has already not signed the finance bill, now I'm posing it to our lawyer. What will happen next? Because he can also take as long as he can take. It's already like almost 14 days. And I've already seen like the Senate, they're already proposing, like they want the previous to propose so that it can be like amended. Now what's happening next?
Yes.
Asante, kwa majina naitwa Brian. Mimi nitaongea kwa Kiswahili kidogo. Na maneno kama matatu hivi ya kuzungumzia. Ya kwanza, ningependa kusema kuwa sasa penye imefika hatufai kuongea finance bill. Kwa sababu gani? Ni jambo ambalo tayari rais wetu alishaliondoa. So chenye tunafaa kuzungumzia, kama mimi nilipata nafasi sana kudurusu bajeti yenye ilikuwa imekuwa proposed, na nitaongelea penye hapa na nishika zaidi kuhusu elimu. Bajeti yenye ilikuwa imetengewa elimu ilikuwa pesa kidogo sana, lakini tunakuja kuona pesa nyingi sana zinafaa kutumiwa katika usafiri na mambo mengine ambayo hayajengi nchi yetu. Ya pili.
What's the question?
So, yangu si swali ila ni maono, not suggestion, venye inaweza fanyika. ningependa sana katika elimu wajaribu kuweka budget yenye itasaidia sana mwanafunzi, kwa sababu nikiangalia kama mimi baada ya kumaliza diploma yangu ya Human Resource Management, kunayo certificate yenye nafaa kupata ya Certified Human Resource Practitioner, na fee yake inakuja 100,000 hapa Mombasa, but ukielekea sehemu kama Nairobi inakuwa 300,000. So nakuja kupata nini fee kama hiyo kwa mtu ambaye ametegemea basari na misaada labda kutoka kwa familia yake, itakuwa ngumu kurezi hizo hela. Nikija upande wa haki, ni kweli mwanasheria hapo ametuambia kwa haki sheria ziko nyingi sana zinazolinda nchi yetu, ila tunaona hizi sheria zinatumika pale ambapo mwananchi wa chini ndiye amepatikana akivunja sheria, ila yule kiongozi ama viongozi wenye tunaita viongozi tumewachagua wakatu represent pale bungeni, wanapovunja sheria hakuna hata mmoja ambaye ashashikwa na akapatikana guilty. Tukianza kwenye CCTV zenye zimetoa picha za DCI, ilitoa picha za wale ambao wanashukiwa kwa walikuwa goons. Picha zao
I think the Archbishop has taken your points into consideration, and the next meeting with the President you can actually raise the same question the gentleman is saying.
I
Next
have done
question.
quite of those a few times. Pick up the area. It's a question of capacity to pay. Do we have the money to pay the education you're talking about? Because the question is, what happens to our bursaries? Because if you look at where they are all distributed, for example, from the constituency level, the counties have bursaries, for example. They had that bursaries. The members of parliament who are wise and were people sensitive, waliweka mpango unaoweza kueleweka. In a few other places it's difficult. I once was in the board of CDF, a national board, and that was my concern. How come money is returned kwa sababu haikutumika? It was not used because of whoever is supposed to do it didn't use it. This is one of the problems also. So I think that's why now we are in the conversation.
Yes.
So I can answer later on the other ones. That's part one.
So we can have
good
three more
evening.
questions.
I'll just be brief.
Yes,
my
please.
name is
A
Norbert.
question, please.
Not
Yes.
a question.
Uh-huh.
I want to commend my church.
Okay.
To my good bishop. I was there assisting the moderator, Reverend Canon Richard, when we had the pre-election interview, that gathering we had at Pastoral Center. And we put the leaders on task, what they are supposed to do. But I didn't see a follow-up. Tukaachilia kidogo. How I wish kama tungeweza kuwafuatilizia. Because the major problem here ni kutuimprovish, watufanye maskini so that tuweze kuwategemea. I've witnessed people being bribed, being a presiding officer of some elections, two of them. People are being bribed because hawana njaa. Mtu anapatiwa shilingi 200 anauza kura. Then tunakuja hapa. So my church, hiki tunafanya ni mzuri sana baba. Tuendelee hapo then a lot of civic education. Asante sana.
Thank you. Let's limit ourselves to questions.
Thank you very much for this opportunity, and I'd like to thank you all at the panel. My question is this, to all of you, and Bishop, thank you very much for the hard work that you've been putting up. We've been seeing you struggling for us.
Thank you.
But are they really listening to us? Is the country really listening? Is the president really listening to us? The finance bill is one thing. Today, in the newspaper and the headlines, the conflict of interest bill is there. Not only are the amendments appalling, but now they have the audacity, right as we speak already, the tenders are already going to them in another way that we are not able to see directly. You know, shell companies here and there. But now the amendments, the audacity to even let us know, yes, we are the ones who are taking them up. Surely, are they listening? How will you assist us in all these issues? the people are looking at the churches, they're looking at the clergy as well. They even have, in that same tweet that was welcoming the bishops to the State House, if you read the tweet, the thread as it goes down, there are a lot of unsavory comments. Some I could not even, it pains me to speak about. But you as a clergy, you as our church leaders, and even from the other faiths, the Muslims, how can you assure us that, one, you're not pawns, because that is the statement, to try and bring us together, to calm us down, and that you're fighting for our rights? Thank you.
Can I attack that from the point of view of corruption?
I think we can just let the question and then we can answer them later. Yes, the next question, just two more and you wrap it up. Yes.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Albert Ofisi from Our Lady of Fatima, Kongoya Parish. I just have two questions. This goes to our Archbishop. My question is, how is it going to be so that the government can listen to us? Has it to be this way? People have to die? Has it to be people have to go on the street so that the government can give us ears as young people? That's my first question. Second question goes to our lawyers. How are you going to ensure there will be accountability to the government, especially on this issue of finance bill? We want to be accountable of every item, of every resources that are being used in this country. That's what we are asking for. So you being lawyers representing us up there, it will be good so that the government should be account in each and everything that are giving it to us. Even the bill that was declined by the president. How are we going to be ensure that there will be accountability on that bill? Thank you.
I'm Peter. I'm a journalist. With your permission, Archbishop Kivuva, you have just said the position of the Catholic Church in concerns. And you know, in news and in mathematics, we do say that numbers do matter. And whenever we are, we are going to search for news, we go on social media. And in X spaces, you could see many people saying occupy churches, because many people had no idea of why are churches involved. Why are churches, inviting wanasiasa kwa ni pulpit. But it is a concern, because in Catholic we have interreligious dialogue where the Muslim, the Indians, the Catholics, they come together and discuss. So people are asking from kwa online. Na tumekuwa tukiskip hivyo maswali mpaka nikasema leo niulize. Watu wanasema kama kuna interreligious ya Christians, watu wenye wana worship the faithfuls, kwa nini kukusikue na like interreligious ya leadership? Penye maybe in your capacity, whether you can talk with leaders from maybe PCA, from those other churches that invite the politician to the pulpit, because a lot of Kenyans are tired of the, some churches would come out and say, us we don't invite, but others invite. So the Kenyans are asking, what can we do? You as a church leader, maybe can you create a mobilization where you can talk to other leaders or something? Thank you, thank you, Bishop.
The last question.
My name is Jacqueline Were. I'm having a lot of questions, but I'll be brief. My first question, His Grace, to the President. What is he trying to do to the education sector now that the fees are much higher, and to the common mwananchi, many people will be unable to attend those higher levels of education? The second question is, we are now shifting from NHIF to SHIF. There are people who already have funds in HIF. What are they doing so that we can have the transfer to the new changes in SHIF? Now that he's trying to tell us that we'll have a universal health care, despite the challenges we are having in money laundering in the same NHIF. The third thing is, we've had police brutality. There are police who are in the limelight in our social media. So what actions are there for them? Because you find that the first demonstration, there were no laws that were broken. The last demonstration, they had the opportunity to do the necessary to take the law in their hands. What actions or what measures are there against them? The last or second last thing, we don't have IBC since we had elections. Why is the president taking time to reconstitute IBC for us to take the changes we want, or to recall the MPs or the whoever leaders we want to? The last thing, every county has a source of revenue. And as we say, we cannot compare Nairobi to Kakamega or Mombasa. There is no accountability for our revenues. Money is getting lost in between our leaders and the people who are there as top officials. What action is our president taking for these revenues? For us who are paying tax, to get the accountability. And the last thing, I'll ask that what measures is again our president taking in action for the ministries? Like, for example, we had the Minister of Agriculture. He had a scandal last time, and we are seeing he's back at work. Things are normal. There are no action against such leaders, and we are still trying to figure out how things are going. After all, our parents are crying about fake fertilizers and everything. What is happening with our sector in health sectors? We are having incompetent leaders in those sectors. What changes are there for us as common mwananchi? Thank you.
Yes, I could see a resistant hand there, and if I end it without listening to him, I might be butchered after this. So, take the floor.
The last one.
Thank you. Long
Yes.
live the spirit of our fallen soldiers, long live.
Long live.
My name is Edwin Shamir. I'm a human rights defender from Mombasa. I have a question for the lawyer. Kindly differentiate between civic education and political education. Because from where I sit, I feel like what is ailing Kenya is political education, not civic education. Because we have been having civic education since the era of 1960 up to date, but we have not gained anything. Secondly, to the Archbishop, what are the mitigation which the church has put in place to ensure that you are going to embrace human rights defenders? Because we have seen in the churches, human rights defenders are being antagonized as people who are violent, and they are not speaking from the side of the Kenyans, or maybe those people who are vulnerable to the community. Again, we have seen church being friendly to the president. Recently, you allowed the president so that they can embrace dialogue with the Gen Zs, those people who are demonstrating or who are protesting peacefully. But one thing you've forgotten, that those people who are protesting, they are not Gen Zs. They are Kenyans. And these Kenyans, they are angry. How can we go into dialogue with someone who is killing us, abducting us, and not listening to us? How are we going into that dialogue? Thank you.
So much. Thank you. I think you can have a pattern shot from the human rights lawyer, and actually just start by answering him on the dialogue issue.
Before responding to Shamir, there's this issue being raised of bursaries everywhere. Now, Shamir, this is now civic education, not political. Political education is where an MP comes out, and we've seen the MP from Western who is talking about, now you don't want CDF, so now mtajipanga na story ya bursary. The fact and the truth is that we do not need bursaries. We only need two things: capitation and the help loan to work. Before these forum, I had a discussion with Kirui and the Archbishop, and Kirui was just trying to say how Kibaki made education simple and cheap for her. And for me, I remember when he came to power, I was in primary school and I enjoyed free education, real free. Si ya kuambiwa bure, alafu unaitishwa tuition, or you have to buy textbooks. So I think political education is when they are coming to tell you what we need is this and that, but they are not telling you the right thing. And this is happening because we are ignorant as Kenyans, as youths. We are ignorant. Access to information is a right, and there is a law governing it. And they say, this is the Bible, they say watu wangu wanaangamia kwa kukosa maarifa. In other words, knowledge is power. So let us seek this knowledge. It is in writing, it is everywhere. Whenever you don't understand, call us. Somebody has asked about the alternative way. The alternative way is that we have rights as Kenyans, but we don't utilize these rights. We don't exercise them. We've shown them the way that they are our representatives. They will do what we tell them to do. And this is very simple. See, I think for the past few years, only one Kenyan has taken a bill sponsored by a citizen, not by an MP, to parliament. And this Kenyan comes from the civil society. So again, it is possible for us, when you are seated here, we come up with an idea. We have many lawyers here. We put it in writing. We sponsor it to parliament and we defend it. And we tell them, this is what we want. This is what we want you to pass. Because things have to work. We have laws, but we are not exercising them. We are not using rule of law. So there are many ways to make this struggle real and to make it fruitful without breaking the law. Thank you.
Thank you. We can go to Aileen.
So for me first, I'd like to actually, as the Gen Zs or maybe as the youth, we acknowledge and appreciate what the church has already done. If we all can remember, the Catholic Church was among the first group that spoke about the finance bill. That aside, they've been making the government accountable. Maybe, to some point, maybe we've seen some religious leaders be pawns of the politicians because they allow maybe things like harambes and such. So it's not in its entirety. And maybe I'll take the question of how the lawyers can make us accountable. This is not something to do with the lawyers. It's something for all of us. We witness our generation, a generation that decided to interpret a bill to mother tongue so that our older generation can understand it. We saw there's actually someone who created an AI to show all the corrupt cases, all leaders with corruption cases, an AI that interprets the law, an AI that interprets the constitution. This is not just about the lawyers making accountable. And the whole thing of Salimia your MP. You know what, just call him and tell him, we put you there. Remember, you are supposed to be of our service. Let's stick with respect, but also, let's do this, but also remember, where your right ends, someone ya mtu mwingine inaanza. So let's be respectful. I've seen a generation where the fear is gone. If someone was in the X space that was dealing with where we were engaging with the president, someone was actually addressing the president as Baba Shalin. Baba Shalin, listen. So you see, the fear is gone. You know, these people, you put them there. And remember, you have the power. There is power in your voice. Right now, the ignorance is gone. We are awake because we cannot witness these things happen. Yet we are the people, for example, they are taking loans and we are going to pay them. I was telling my mom, watu wamengoja mpaka tumekuwa kubwa ndo anze kutufanyia hizi vitu. You can't make education expensive. Yet to see a whole generation after us that will miss opportunities in campus. One thing is the president, no more dialogue. The Gen Z said, no dialogue, action. The president, maybe as I'd quote a tweet, should stop flying and lying. Thank you
so much. No more dialogue. We need more actions. To our Archbishop, are our leaders really listening?
I think one of the things I think you leaders who are watching us, is that they have said it, these youngsters have said 1,000 times what we've been advocating for. The awareness to advocate for justice, for fairness, for equal distribution of the national cake, in terms of even as long as the constituency. Because at every level, when you do budgets, you have already made this county to that county, and normally that is already determined. Apart from that, I also think we as Kenyans should also go out of our way to engage in revenue or resource mobilization, because there are many times in places we live what I call dead assets. Your families have land, or church has land, and we can group ourselves in smaller group and demand, or not demand, just speak to our mheshimiwa, whoever it is, to get the necessary startups. It is possible, because at the end of the day, it is also, there will be, if they tax anything, you also become part of the taxpayer anyhow. So we have a very serious work to do. First of all, to appreciate what's collected is spent wisely. It is not squandered, it's not given to a few, or they don't loot it, because we have done what we can do. As bishops, during a day in Subukia, 2019, all of us removed our shoes, and we was talking about fighting corruption. And of course, it becomes a song. It also became a ringtone, so that you get that message right there. But when we finish, all of us draw back to our places. You are the one in the offices. You are the ones in the chairing all these bursary groups and so on. We are demanding young people who are also honest, and also our leaders kindly be truthful. Because without that, then your saying goes, Manke see, Manke do. They fight for the positions just to have money. So we must also be careful. Who are we electing? Because that is our right, to elect a good man, a good person. And even if you are campaigning for them, you know they are able, and they are honest, they are truthful, they are part of your life. But they have a way of doing, you buy the voters, or you defranchise by buying the votes, the IDs. That was part of what was discovered in some of the discussions we had, where an AB would go and buy your IDs, the IDs of the kinamamas and the place they want to defranchise whoever is maybe popular. So you must defend those votes. So be ready as you elect also to stand up and learn what are they doing and how do they cheat anyway. Because the most expensive, one of the most expensive countries with elections is Kenya. We are dealing about even sometimes 50, 40 billion or million, or a lot of money. While in other countries, they don't even have to worry about it. They put a box out there, sometime near the church, and someone writes and goes. I've seen it happen in some countries. We have become the most expensive country to conduct elections. Somebody talked about IEBC. Yes, we did mention to His Excellency, but now somebody has to follow up. But I think this is, without IEBC, you can do nothing. The last one before the last, we did the same. We went Isaac Hassan, and we spoke to them. Because once you lose credibility at that point, you have to go back to the drawing board. But why do we allow ourselves to be cheated? Because we also we fall prey to those who bribe us, or bribe the youth, or bribe the officers. Let's not go that way. And you cannot make a guy who has not learned to be truthful don't expect him to be any better after he gets the position. So we must kuanza kuwachuja mapema. Tuseme huyu, yule ndio. And that's how, when they campaign, you take them to court, to task. How much have you done in the last, or you think they don't have to become generous when they become MPs. You know them, they have to start by, that's young people in the village. Those who give support to the village many times are the ordinary people who have been helping, teachers, helping children, farmers, helping other farmers. And we need to be very firm. That's what I can say. Perhaps we have failed, and I always say, we are told we are about 85 or so percent between the Christians, the Muslims, maybe 90%. And look, who is failing who? Who is not holding, who is cheating who? It is us cheating ourselves and say we are true Christians. So if we are true Muslims, we are true Hindus, we are honest. Those are the values we want to see. Without that, we'll talk, we sing, we do whatever, but we'll never succeed, because already there are those who are timing it to enrich themselves. It is our time to eat. It's our tribe to eat. Is our this? No. This is what we need to fight, and fight tooth and nail. So, last but not least, somebody else asked about tax. The taxes, we all know. We told him, everybody knows, it's just killing. And it was voted, but it was rejected. We still have a country to live, but we need to get back to a solution that can take care of the suffering majority, while the laws we demanded also, people have asked them to bring down their salaries, especially those who are earning a bit too high, because at the end of the day, it is your taxes, our taxes. And I know you've said it 1,000 times. So if I say to him what I have to say, we have to advocate for free and fair distribution of the resources we all have, right from the constituency to the counties to the national levels. And somebody has said it's easy to do education if only you can make it achievable for many. Only that way you will also have a country with people who can run the country in the future. But if we leave all those universities die, and the young who can afford are also from where we know, then they will continue ruling. They will continue, all of those who can afford. But all of us have a right to education. So I suppose it's a big one. Somebody talked about NIHF, SHIF. They're still struggling to explain clearly. And I know at the end of the day, it goes back to the same thing. Do you have the right person there, or you have a person who is doing something else? So it's a job for all of us. Those who are here, and those who are listening, and those who are working in those positions. I think we must call our country to attention. Attention, Kenya. Attention. Things are not, I keep saying, kumeduka. We must be ready to be counted. Stand up and be counted. Because if you don't, then why give you the job? Stand up and be counted as an honest leader. You promise, deliver. And if you can't deliver, apologize and give another deadline after 2 days, after 3 years, after 1 year. And follow. Let's see you acting that way. So once again, congratulations for this panel, and I think we have a reason to keep talking about our issues. How will you get it, the government act on it? There are mechanisms of when a law is made, there are mechanisms how to implement it. But if there are no implementers, then there's no reason to promise. So I think we need more and more of all of us knowing what's going on? What's going on with our bursary? What's going on with our taxes? What's going on with our land? What is going on? Because without that, we just wait, and less than a year, there's no more land, there's no more money, the debt grows bigger. So he has set up, I think I've seen setting up some certain commissions to look at what, but that is him to tell us. I can only stand where I advocating, because I know how much hard it is to run our schools. Our schools without school fees, we have run back to doing a run-base with them and for them to try to keep our students in the universities, students in KMTCs, students in TTCs, and even in second schools, including even primary now. So it's a big job to do. We must brace ourselves to do it, even starting locally and going upwards.
Yes, it is indeed a big job to do. The last person, our panelist, my senior, Lawrence Obonya, just parting shot, and how will lawyers make politicians accountable?
Good evening.
Good evening.
Are we still together? They say charity begins where? Charity begins at home. Sindio? So I'll try and give my parting shot as I answer the questions that had been raised to me. First of all, remember, charity begins at home. Secondly, our leadership is the reflection of our society. The leadership that you're trying to approach right now and to change is a reflection of you and I. We are the ones who put it there, directly or indirectly. There are people who are maybe in the last election cycle or before, they were saying that I don't do elections. Elections are not for me and all that. Elena has already told us about that. So it is your responsibility to take up your responsibility and be counted. Take the vote. To my colleague at the back, long live the fallen soldiers, and let us not carry their work to the lightness that is not supposed to be there. The thing is like this. Civic education, you talk of political education. If you do proper civic education, not just to tick a box, then political education will be involved there. You will elect a leader who will reflect the values that you have. If your leader has turned, or if your leadership has been turned into a career, let's say politics has been turned into a career, then you will have politicians who are a cycle of the worst forms of the society. So it is our responsibilities, and in as much as we are protesting, I humbly pray and hope for that day that we'll see a hashtag that is guiding people to take up votes so that we can make our voices be heard in the next election. To my sister who had asked about the bill is now a thing of the past. It was the wake-up call, but there was a memorandum that was there, so we are not in any danger right now about the bill of 2024. We are effectively dealing with the 2023 because the law does not allow for a vacuum to be there. Whatever you're seeing, if you allow for a vacuum to be there, that there are no laws, it will be 10 times worse. To my brother who had asked what happens to the first protest being conducted in a certain way and the other protests turning violent and all that, and being infiltrated by goons, ask yourself, when the protests were going on, the looting and the goons, the so-called goons were there, if you look at their faces, if you look at the demographic of their ages, you will notice one thing. You could not tell whether this one is not a Gen Z and this one is a Gen Z, so to speak. So we are talking about a society that the ills of the society or the negatives of the society swallow the good of the society because we are all being used in one way or the other. You say, you call someone a goon, but they are also trying to earn a daily living. They've been paid by someone. So what can we do about this? We can try and alleviate all this that is exposing us to be vulnerable or gullible to being used by negative politicians. Bishop has already said we have to make sure that we change the systems that are putting us there. Someone said that we don't have jobs, we are miseducated and all that. Let us use the fire that has already been ignited right now to ignite the change in the society. Let this movement and the fallen soldiers' efforts not go in vain. Let us use that to actually ensure that once we call the government and the current political leadership to accountability, then we take it all the way to the vote. Let us not sit back and wait for the next time to protest. What I have heard from my sister at the back, who's mentioned about the bills that are currently ongoing and have already been passed, and the amendments to something like the Conflict of Interest Act. When you look at such things, it gives me the hope that we are now keen. We needed this wake-up call so that we can be keen. So many things that have been happening because of what we call tragedy of the commons. Tragedy of the commons is that you are expecting it to be someone else's burden. You come, pile it up because you expected someone. Take it as your personal responsibility to change this country. Be alert and make sure civic education touches on yourself. You say that you teach your parent, you teach your colleague, you educate each other, you give each other, like, let's not just forward, excuse my language, let us not just forward nonsense on WhatsApp. Let us forward that there's this bill, there's public participation, the way Wakili Kioko had said, that there was public participation on something and there were few. So we need for more and more of us to be there. Rome was not built in a day. Sindio? So it takes our responsibility and our constant vigilance to make sure that we change this country. If you expect it to change through this wave of protest, it will not. You have to change from the root. And the root means that it will take time. The election cycle that is coming is more important than what we are seeing right now. The foundation has been laid, the pedestal is there. Let us get up there and make sure it counts. Otherwise, thank you so much, and let you not take this for granted. You need to have more and more of these engagements. We need to have such halls full to the brim so that we can engage. And also, remember, if someone is asking, why should we sit at the table with people who are killing us, people who don't listen to us, who are abducting us? As much as people say information is power, I learned from watching Game of Thrones that power is power. Let us not take into granted that the people who are in power right now, we've put them there and they are in power. For us to be heard, we have to sit with them at the table. Let us find sensible and how shall I put it, ways that are going to ensure posterity. Let us not find ways that are just going to make sure that, yes, we've shut down the country and we are right now here. Sit at the table. Let your voice be heard. What you think cannot be changed through negotiation, through a hashtag, through something, you'll be surprised that it can when you sit down with the person you consider an oppressor. I'm not a government apologist, but I believe that at the end of the day, there are so many ways of getting a win. If one does not work, use another. So do not lock anyone out. Thank you so much, and I wish you a good evening.
Thank you. As we grace the streets during the Mandamano and the protest, and as we also grace ourselves, let us maintain the same momentum in watching news, and so that at least when you're actually participating, engaging in civic education and actually in platforms like this, we cannot be engaging out of the perspective of rumors, but out of context. The question that we should actually be asking ourselves as we go home is, what is law? What is democracy? What is governance? What are you fighting for? Are you fighting for to achieve something that will be on a short term, or are you fighting to achieve something that will run in a long-term perspective? Unlike our brothers who did the same thing in December 1991, our brothers and sisters who also engaged in the same protests in Egypt, Khartoum, and also the hashtag Occupy Parliament. So I would like to end the show right now. and extend my gratitude to the audience for gracing this event, the organizers, Luanga Communication Center, our panelists, our Archbishop for gracing your presence in this event, and also to our viewers on YouTube. Thank you so much for tuning with us. I'm your host, Anne Kanini.
From Luanga Communications Center. Communications creates communion.
Este mes tengamos en nuestra oración el cuidado pastoral de los enfermos. La unción de los enfermos no es un sacramento solo para aquellos que están a punto de morir. No, es importante tener esto claro. Cuando el sacerdote se acerca a una persona para darle la unción de los enfermos, no está necesariamente ayudándole a despedirse de la vida. Pensar así es renunciar a toda esperanza. Es dar por sentado que después del cura llega el enterrador. Recordemos que la unción de los enfermos es uno de los sacramentos de sanación, de curación, que sana el espíritu. Y cuando una persona está muy enferma, conviene darle la unción de los enfermos. Y cuando una persona ya está anciana, conviene que reciba la unción de los enfermos. Oremos para que el sacramento de la unción de los enfermos dé a las personas que lo reciben y a sus seres queridos la fuerza del Señor y se convierta cada vez más para todos en un signo visible de compasión y de esperanza.
Tunazidi kumshukuru Mungu kwa zawadi ya mapadri wetu wa Capuchin ambao kwa muda wa miaka 50 ya uinjilishaji wameeneza habari njema ya upendo kwa watu wengi. Wamemhubiri Kristo kwa watu wengi. Na Kristo ameguza maisha ya watu wengi kwa mahubiri ya mapadri wetu. Tuombee shirika letu la Capuchin, Mungu azidi kuwabariki. Na wanaposherehekea miaka 50, Mungu azidi kuwa pamoja na hao. Tuzidi kuwaombea kila mmoja wetu. Wakati unasali, kumbuka kuombea Capuchin wetu ambao wamesambaa kote kote ulimwenguni wakihubiri habari njema.
Tuendelee kufanya kazi. Paybill number 510678, account name CAPS TV.